So a couple of weeks ago I made a video about how I found an M1 Max MacBook for $120. It was a surprisingly popular video and I got a ton of responses. And even though I tried answering all of your comments, I still wanted to make a short follow-up video. There were many similar questions people asked constantly, so I've tried sorting through them all and putting them in categories. But before addressing your questions, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my Patreon page. Having people support you there really helps out the smaller channels like mine. Apart from sharing some extra content, you'll have early access to my videos. This video was posted to Patreon first. You can join for as little as $1 a month or more if you want. So if you can, go to my Patreon and throw a buck in the hat. Thanks, and on with the video. So before moving on to actual comments, I just wanted to say that this computer has been really awesome. I've been using it every single day since I've gotten it, and it has performed wonderfully. And I can honestly say that apart from the screen, this computer has no other issues whatsoever. And that brings us to the first thing people have said about this computer. The majority of you wanted me to fix the screen. I mean, of course you did. I would also like to have a working screen. But in the video I said I wouldn't really attempt to replace the screen because of the way I use this laptop. See, even though people said that this thing has a gorgeous screen, its size is only 14 inches, which is, in my experience, far too small for serious work. And because of that, I use all my main computers with an external monitor, which is not nearly as high of quality, but it's so much bigger. But having said that, it would still be awesome if the screen could be fixed. And some of the people in the comments seem to have a good idea of what's wrong with it. Many of you suggested that this thing has an issue with the flex cable. Some people said it wasn't seated properly, or that it was chewed up and just needed replacing, and all of the issues could be resolved by investing in a $5 part. Perhaps the computer was dropped, or the cable was damaged from all the opening and closing of the lid. But some of you had other theories. Again, people suggested that there's nothing wrong with the screen itself, but that the backlight circuitry was damaged. And that made sense to me because in certain situations, it was as if I could see some things popping on the screen. For example, when booting the computer up, it was as if I could see a faint Apple logo under certain lighting conditions. Also, in those situations, I could actually tell that the backlight was responding somewhat, as I could actually trigger it using the brightness control buttons. So even though it could have been something as simple as a shorted capacitor on the backlight portion of the motherboard, I just didn't know for sure. I also found it amusing how people suggested to just turn up the brightness. And man, I do wish it was that simple. People have also suggested some software solutions like resetting the NVRAM or the PRAM. And even though I would love it to be as simple as that, yeah, unfortunately that also didn't fix the issue. People have also suggested just reusing my old 13-inch MacBook screen. And not only is it a different size, but these newer MacBooks have all sorts of incompatibility issues when it comes to new screens. So even though I wasn't terribly bummed out about having a non-working screen, I was just curious and I wanted to see what was wrong with it. And everybody said just send it to Louis Rossmann. And I mean, I really enjoy his channel and I think that his board repair videos are super informative. But it really makes no sense for me to send my computer to his shop because he lives in the States and I'm located in Europe. And with the shipping taking forever and costing an arm and a leg, it really makes no sense for me to be sending out my computer for diagnostics. So I've decided on getting it checked out locally. I've decided against sending it to Apple because not only do they not do board repairs, but there are actually no Apple stores here where I live, only authorized resellers. So I've decided on third-party repair shops. And I've pretty much contacted everyone that was remotely local to me. Some of them responded by saying that they didn't offer the screen replacement service for this particular model, but 2 shops said that I could bring the computer in for diagnostics. The first shop said that the repair could cost anywhere from $40 to like $900 depending on what was wrong with the display. This is me awkwardly waiting in their lobby while dropping the computer off. So the next day they've called me up and said that the screen has to be replaced. And the price of replacing the screen assembly is little less than $900. I specifically asked them, are you sure this is not a display cable or the backlight circuitry issue? They said no, the screen definitely has to be replaced. I said that I didn't want to go through with the screen replacement and they were cool with that and didn't charge me anything. I also got a quota from the other shop and they quoted me for the display as well as the lid sensor. And that came up to a little over $1,000. So I didn't want to go with that shop either. And you might ask why. I mean, many people said that given the price I've paid for the computer itself, I should definitely spend the money on the repair. And some people even called me cheap for refusing to pay for the repair. But to me, paying $1,000 for something that I might not even end up using, it just seems ridiculous. And it takes this deal of a lifetime I found to just an unnecessary expense. Also, I had people suggesting that I investigate this myself. People have sent me videos of similar backlight repairs. And they're like, here, you can just replace a couple of capacitors or resistors and you'll have this screen fixed for pennies. And even though I do have some experience fixing electronics and soldering, I even have a hot air station. But the things I usually repair are either super simple, or it's some old piece of junk, or it's just dead. So there's really no harm in me giving it a go. But I've been burned enough times throughout the years to know when not to mess with something. These modern motherboards and SMD components are super easy to mess up. Believe me, I've done it a couple of times myself. It's also easy to short something out while you're just troubleshooting. And I mean, what's the point? 2 other professional repair shops have already diagnosed this thing. And even though that might disappoint people, the screen might never get replaced. But hopefully you can still be happy for me, because honestly I don't care about the screen not working. This is the exact same way I used my previous laptops, with the lid closed down and hooked up to an external screen. And that brings us to another thing people really wanted me to do, and that's to remove the screen entirely. I was blown away by the amount of people who wanted me to do a headless mod. And I just couldn't figure out why. Some people said that it would be more ergonomic, but I guess they failed to see how I use that computer in the video. I mean, I have an external keyboard and mouse, and the laptop is sitting on a stand. So I'm not even using the built-in keyboard or the trackpad. And with the lid closed down, I have a built-in dust cover. That lid also houses the wireless antennas and also the webcam. And that webcam is by far the best notebook camera I've ever used. What's funny is that I've recently done the headless mod to a notebook I've recently found in the trash. And the main reason I did it is because the laptop was already in pieces and the hinges were all messed up. And what's funny is that I've ended up using that laptop in the same way I'm using my M1 Max. It's just that that one is stored under the desk. And even if I for some reason wanted to take off the screen from that M1 Max, it's actually quite a bit harder than you might think. It's a whole process and a whole lot of opportunities to mess something up unnecessarily. So again, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not going to be doing a headless mod. So, okay, you're not going to repair the display, you're not going to take it off, you should at least treat yourself to a nice monitor. So yeah, people saw me using that crappy monitor and told me that I should really pair this computer with a 4K monitor. And the thing I'm using is just a 920 by 1080 LED backlit LCD display. Yeah, that's liquid crystal display. Department of Redundancy department. So yeah, that is actually good advice. The display I'm using now is actually just a 24-inch $20 piece of crap I found on an online marketplace. But you know what? It's actually not bad at all. It's one of those things where if you put it side by side with a 4K monitor, I mean, of course you're gonna notice that it's not as good. But I genuinely have no issues using it whatsoever. And I promise I'm gonna get a better monitor once I move to my new place. So what, you wanna spend $100 on a new monitor? What are you, poor? Because if you are, you should flip this thing for a profit. I don't know, man. I wouldn't necessarily call myself poor, but I'm certainly not rich either. But it's not about being poor or rich. It's just that I would feel so bad to resell this thing for a profit. I know there are people who make a living flipping things, but I really don't like doing that. Plus, I love this machine and I would hate to sell it, even though I could certainly turn a profit by doing that. And people love searching for things to flip online, and they were super interested in this site I've shown myself finding great deals. It's called Nyushkalo, and it's a local online marketplace here where I live. I guess it's similar to like a Craigslist. And people were interested, like, could I go there to find a good deal myself? And I mean, technically, I guess you could. But it would be something like me trying to get the guy on Craigslist from like Arizona to ship something to me in Europe. It's not like eBay, it's just probably not gonna happen. And as I've said in the video, this site is unfortunately scam infected. So this is just the first page of the Apple MacBook category, and I already found like 5-6 scammer ads. So yeah, these are all scams, and I would hate for somebody who's watching my videos to be like, oh, I'm gonna go on this Nyushkalo site and I'm gonna find me a good deal like this Shrubik guy. And if you do find a legitimate deal and you start talking to the seller in English, yeah, they're just gonna think that you're a scammer. My main interest on sites like these are actually vintage electronics, like this old PowerBook G4. But yeah, unless you live where I live, Nyushkalo is probably not a viable option for you, unfortunately. And apart from this site being occupied by scammers, I guess there are also people selling stolen stuff. And I was certainly accused of this Mac being stolen. Well, that and faking it for the views, but that goes without saying. So the way I know this computer wasn't stolen, other than it coming from a reputable seller, is on every new product, Apple has implemented something called the iCloud lock or the activation lock. So every owner of a fancy new Apple product goes through a iCloud sign-in process upon setting the device up for the first time. So if the device is ever lost or stolen, they can just activate the iCloud lock and that device is going to be pretty much impenetrable. Before the activation lock on some earlier Macs, you could also find like a lock pin code, which was also really hard but possible to bypass. It's safe to say that my Mac didn't have any of these restrictions, because the previous owner had signed out of all of these services before getting rid of the machine. So other than this thing being stolen or fake, there were some other things people were also complaining about. And one thing that really made me chuckle is when I started to read what people said about the way I talk. So the two main things people said was that I talk too slow and that I sound weird. And both of those are quite true, but I do have an explanation for it. So you can probably tell that English isn't my first language. So that kinda impairs my ability to talk super fast without fumbling. The other factor is I'm not reading any of this, I'm just making it up as I go. But if the speed bothers you and you still want to enjoy my content, I mean, be my guest, all the controls are at your disposal. Feel free to watch my footage at 1.5 or 175 times speed. Better still, I'll speed it up for you, see how you like it. The other thing people said is that I sound like I'm about to fall asleep, or that I sound like I'm super depressed. And I mean, none of those are really true, but there's only so much you can do about the way your voice naturally sounds. The other thing has to do with the way the content changed in the last few years. People not only have to talk super fast to fit their video in this stupid 1-minute format TikTok and YouTube nowadays like, they also have to be like super energetic and positive to grab the attentions of people watching millions of similar videos on the internet. And personally, I just don't want to sound like that. So yeah, this is just my normal everyday voice, and it is what it is. But hopefully in time I do start talking faster. I kinda like that sped up version. And the last thing many people wanted to know is what is this keyboard I'm using? It's a Royal Clutch M75, and if you're interested in it, I recently made a video about it on my channel. So as far as the group comments go, yeah, I think this pretty much covers it. Well, apart from people complaining about using alcohol wipes on the screen. And even though I've talked about this in my other videos, I guess I'll mention it here too. So let's go to the official Apple guide on how to clean your Apple products. I will now read you the instructions. Is it okay to use a disinfectant on my Apple product? Using a 70% isopropyl alcohol wipe, 75% ethyl alcohol wipe, or Clorox disinfecting wipes, you may gently wipe the hard, non-porous surfaces of your Apple products, such as the display, keyboard, or other exterior surfaces. Do not use these cleaning products on Apple Vision Pro as they may damage the device. Don't use products containing bleach or hydrogen peroxide. Avoid getting moisture in any opening, and don't submerge your Apple product in any cleaning agents. Do not use on fabric on leather surfaces. So cleaning your screens with alcohol wipes or a microfiber cloth and some IPA will in no way damage your screen. Just don't scrub too hard or pour alcohol directly on your screen. And it's not like I trust Apple, it's just that I've been doing it for so long and never had any issues with it. So please, for the love of Christ, can we please stop with these comments now? If you destroyed your screen using alcohol, you were probably doing something very wrong. So even though there were some other popular comments, like about showing your serial number, even though there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, or checking the guest account for specs, even though the only thing you can do on a guest account is browse with Safari. But I'm not going to cover all of them because that would take forever. So hopefully this answers some questions you were left with after watching my previous video. And I'm sorry if this feels a little disappointing, seeing how I didn't fix the screen, but I really hope that doesn't take away from the fact that this computer is awesome and I love using it. And after rewatching this video, I felt that you might walk away from this video feeling like it got a lot of negative responses. So I'm just gonna leave you with a montage of just a few heartwarming and beautiful comments you guys left. Like I said in the comments, even though I'm very happy to have found this computer at such a low cost, I'm even happier about what this computer did for my channel. It brought in so many new viewers and subscribers, and it's my most viewed video. So to all the new folks, I hope you stick around and keep enjoying my content. I've decided to try to make this YouTube thing work, and again, if you'd like to help me out with that, you can do so on Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll have a new video for you in a couple of days. I'll be giving away my old MacBook, so stay tuned for that, and I hope you find a nice deal like this yourself. Cheers.